Yo, what's going on, everyone? It's Brian and Jim here. Drink a beer and play a game, and welcome to another episode of the Power Hour.
Yes, hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 173. Thank you for joining us tonight. Hope you're having a good one. We're doing good, because real quick, got to give a quick shout out to Roo and Longie from last week. The guys behind Gelatinous. It was awesome to talk to them. And we actually are keeping the guest train rolling this week. He comes to us from the Super Nicktendo channel. He is Nick. Nick, how you doing, man?
Doing all right. How are you guys?
Man, I'm glad to have you on ever since I saw some of your videos, and we're going to get to that in one moment. But the first question, Nick, is I don't know if you are a drinker, but do you have any beer with you tonight?
I do. I grabbed some Oberon here.
Okay. Nice.
So
That's Bell's, right?
Yeah, it's my little backup here. Oktoberfest is just trickling in, but we got to finish up what's in the fridge first. So I got my nice little Yeti koozie and stuff.
Nice.
So it's gonna stay cold all through.
Yeah, one thing I
like
knew Brian was gonna be excited about. Nick's a bit of he's a craft beer fan, so he can definitely have stuff to tell us about the old Chicago area and stuff like that. So
Yeah, I don't drink as much as I do, but like we like going to breweries around here and just chilling out. You know, it's a good sign when they know who you are when you come in, despite how busy it is. So,
are you getting the old the usual yet?
No, because like they rotate a lot.
Okay.
So you know, like depending on what season it is and everything, like they'll have different types of beers, but it's really fun because yeah, when we pop in, like we usually get pretty good service and stuff, so it's pretty good.
Yeah, Chicago is very similar to Philly and just Illinois compared to PA in the sense that a lot of breweries have popped up over there, and a lot of ones have done some stuff that we're even seeing. So I'm kind of curious, like, what's your go-to or your favorite craft brewery over there in Chicago?
So we kind of like rotate depending on like how we're feeling, but one that we really like is Temperance Brewing in Evanston, Illinois. They're just kind of a small little affair and everything, and they make some good beers that we all enjoy. They were our saving grace during the pandemic because they had a tailgating service where you could just buy beer and then drink in the parking lot. Nice. So we were able to like still get out of the house and, you know, kind of, you know, still, you know, because you get cooped up in the house and stuff. So, you know, definitely like that was our saving grace. And they make this a Might Meets Right. It's like they're super like heavy beers and stuff. Like they make like this. It's like a mint chocolate chip. It's like a Mexican hot chocolate or something like that. Or they have like a mint one and. Like it's delicious, but it's very dangerous because it's really heavy,
very strong, right?
So I think each can is like, 11% or something.
Oh shit!
Like that.
Yeah, I'm looking at their stuff right now, and it seems like they got a praline, a High West, and an orange chocolate, and they're 12.5 to 12.9%. So
they change them up every year. I think like the one that the chocolate one usually stays around. That's kind of like their perennial one, nice. But they like to play around with the things. So, but yeah, I mean, like there's so many different breweries around us that we just enjoy. We just really liked it's called Surefire, I think, and they make like this watermelon beer that is like hell of high watermelon, but it's like super it's Sure Shot Brewing, or
Sure
is
Shot.
it?
Okay.
No, you know what? Hold on, it's Short Fuse Brewing. That's what it's called.
Short Fuse. Okay.
Yeah, and so like they have like this nice like it's a watermelon beer, and it's called like something kids or something like that. It's like this. It's just really interesting, like nice, tasty watermelon beer, but it's not like too sweet. You know, where you can't like you only drink one of them or something like that. Like it's, but it's a lot of fun. Like because now like we've been able to like actually go out and like visit these places, so it's actually like nice to just get out and like try different breweries around the place here.
Yeah, we were saying that one silver lining for beer, at least in PA, because of COVID, was PA is notoriously one of the worst when it comes to shipping or receiving alcohol.
Mm.
And all the breweries were willing to ship statewide now. Whereas before, none of them did that. So now, like for us, getting stuff from Pittsburgh is a possibility because they seem to be sticking with that. And that's how they supplement their sales. I actually didn't hear anyone do it the way yours did with that whole tailgating idea. That would have been pretty damn cool.
That was like the only place that we knew that did it. And it was kind of like a little hidden gem because like nobody really knew it. And we'd just go on a Saturday, in the afternoon. And even if it was like cold too, like we kind of like we bought our place right before the pandemic started. And so like I went and I bought one of those propane deck heaters.
Yep.
And so like as long as it's like 50 or so, it's pretty nice to just sit on the deck and like drink some beers.
Just chill with some beers. Nice. I like it. Now, what about you, Chambers? What you got with us tonight?
Well, I am drinking the Dark Hollow Imperial Stout. Comes to us from the Blue Mountain Barrel House. So they are out of Arrington, Nelson County, Virginia. So, and it's really
Jim, what clearance rack did you get that off?
I did not get off a clearance
way too
rack.
fancy for you.
I did not get off a clearance rack. This is another one my wife bought me when she was out at that tap house out in St. Louis. So, you know what? We bought it when we were down in Busch Gardens, and this was another one that I was like, oh, I'll save this, and I was like, fuck this, I'm drinking this tonight. So, but yeah, I've been sitting on this for at least over a month or two at this point. But yeah, comes in. Hey, it's really just an imperial stout in oak bourbon barrels, 10% alcohol, 70 IBUs. So I don't even know what the price is, but this is a tasty boy. I'll say that right now. You can really smell like the smokiness coming through in the aroma.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, well, Nick mentioned it, and I mentioned it last podcast, so I've already went out and started procuring as much of the Oktoberfest-style beers as I can, because I did kind of purge all of my old, I'd call it summer catalog, if you will. So, one, and I always screw up their name, the Weihenstephaner Fest beer. It's, the oldest brewery in the world, their version of the Fest beer, which last year I grabbed every Oktoberfest beer that I could that was local near me. I didn't see this one last year. Doesn't mean it wasn't available. Just means I didn't see it. So this is my first time actually having it. And if you've ever had beer from them, it's always damn good quality. It's always solid. And, they're made for, Oktoberfest. So, yeah, it's pretty damn solid if you like Oktoberfest style beers.
Yeah, I love them. I mean, it's one of those, it's my favorite beer season. It's just like my go-to. I like going around and because I don't really like IPAs because everybody has like IPAs and it's just they're too bitter. And but like when it comes with Oktoberfest, like Oktoberfest is popular enough where almost every brewery tries to make one. So it's fun to kind of just like go around and do it. Like even Old Style makes one, and it's actually really good.
Yeah, it's a style that I think is underappreciated because it's very easy to drink. It's not like gonna knock you back with too much bullshit flavor. And yeah, I do associate it with like it's fall, you're going out, you're doing things, especially if you go to events that have them. Like every time I've gone to a beer event, it was just happened to coincide with Oktoberfest. Actually near us, one of the breweries, Evil Genius, and I tagged Jim in this, they're pairing up with Annie Ann's to make like a Annie Ann's style Oktoberfest beer. So I'm like, whatever, I'll try it. I love that more and more places are trying it because Jim and I talk about that all the time. We're tired of IPAs. It's like every brewery, it seems like if you open a brewery, if you don't have at least 3 or 4 IPAs on tap, then you don't know what you're doing. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, like they're easy to make. They're, it's like year round. It's almost pretty difficult to mess it up too.
Yeah.
So it's like it's a really easy beer to just start out with, but that's kind of the problem though, right? It's if you don't like it, you're pretty much done with beer. Like there's no real places and stuff, and like I'm glad that like a lot of other places have started to like branch out. Like I'm really big into like nitro brews, and those are a lot of fun to try too.
Yeah, they're popping up a lot. Like I feel like that style sours are popping up a lot more. Um, I'd say the hazy IPAs took over, but then we also saw a big influx of all the milkshake IPAs because I think you're starting to see more and more people not want to deal with the bitterness, and they're
Yeah.
trying to branch out. But at the end of the day, it's still an IPA.
Yeah, there's another place that we go to. It's called Elmhurst Brewing, and they made a coffee blonde ale. So it's got like the flavor of a coffee stout, but it's the lightness. It's as light as like a pilsner or a lager. So it's, so you can actually like enjoy them instead of like getting totally plastered and having to drive home. So
Yeah.
So is it like,
Exactly.
does it actually like taste right in your mouth, or is it one of those things where it's like the blonde stouts where you're like, look at it and you're tasting it, it's like, it tastes like a stout, but it doesn't look right. My brain's like short circuiting right now.
kind of, but yeah, it's got like a really nice coffee flavor to it. It doesn't taste like a stout. It tastes more like coffee. So if you don't really like coffee, then it's kind of not your thing, but I like it because I like not too sweet and not too bitter. So it's kind of like right in the middle. It's just kind of nice. That and red ales are pretty nice, Irish red ales.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's another good season right around there, which once again, it's a style nobody really talks about, which seems unfortunate.
Yeah, there was a Ram Brewing. They're like a chain around the U.S. and stuff, and they had like an Irish red ale called Rabbit Punch, and I would get like a growler of it, and then like because I would just stop on the way home because they're right there in Rosemont, and then like Rosemont made an ordinance or something like that where they weren't allowed to sell growlers anymore, and I was like, what the hell
Was
is
that during
this?
the
Like,
pandemic? Because that hit a lot of breweries by us.
No. It happened a while ago, but speaking of like pandemic thing, there was one place, it was called Twisted Hippo, and they built out this really nice place, and they have really good food, and like their big thing too, like with the food, is that the tax and the tip are all included into the meal, so you don't have to tip or anything. So what you see on the price is what's on the menu is what you pay. So it's pretty nice. People are really happy there because like they don't have to worry about getting stiffed on like tips or anything like that. And the place burned down, and it was like really devastating. It wasn't even their fault too. It was like some shady apartment building next door like caught on fire and then caused everything else to just like burn to the ground. Like the whole building had to be leveled.
That
But
sucks.
they're almost ready to be opening back up again, so I'm excited to try them out.
Yeah, for sure. No, like I said, it is a good season for Jim and I. I mean, we like the Oktoberfest. We even like the pumpkin beer stuff. We know that gets a ton of hate too. It's weird because it's like, yeah, you can have ones that taste way too much, but if you have other ones, it tastes like they don't put any at this stage. We feel like if you just put cinnamon and nutmeg in a beer, they're gonna call it pumpkin. Like there's nothing actually pumpkin related in most of the pumpkin beers.
Yeah, those are the ones that I can drink like maybe one of, and then I'm like, you know what, I'm good for the rest of the season because it's just too sweet. The ones that are really fun are like the chili pepper.
Spicy ones.
Yeah, spicy ones that almost taste like, they don't quite taste like cinnamon or anything like that, but like they're nice and like fiery and stuff. It's
yeah, we've tried. We've mentioned a few spicy beers we've tried, and one. I don't know if you ever had the luck, Jim. You can explain this.
The old Ghost Face Killer, made from habaneros, basically. And
no, it was ghost peppers.
Oh yeah, that's right. It was ghost peppers. It was even better. Well, not for me. But yeah, we were drinking fucking Stella all night. And then Brian's randomly like, and this is early on the page when we weren't like, really used to craft beers as much now either. And mixing and matching like that. So he's like, oh, let's try this really spicy beer I got. I was like, okay. So we just like split one. So I'm drinking half of it and I'm running to the bathroom to throw up. I was like, Jesus, goddamn.
Yeah, I can't handle like too much spice where you can't like taste anything.
Yeah, this was not enjoyable. It was.
Yeah, it wasn't good.
It was. They didn't hide it. It was advertised as the spiciest beer ever made. I can't find it anymore. It was like $15 for a regular 12-ouncer. And to top it off, we were coming off of a marathon of trying out all different Super Nintendo fighting games, and we were in the middle of playing Pit Fighter of all games, like the worst game ever on the Super NES. And sure enough, that's how we capped off that night with that spicy beer that made Jim throw up.
Ah, the good old days.
But Nick, I mean, obviously, you're being Super Nicktendo. I guess my question for you is, what do you play now? I mean, obviously, you have your page, you do your videos.
And actually,
what
before
have
we
you
get
been
into
playing?
that, sorry to cut you off, Brian, but we've been bad hosts. Nick, please tell us where everyone can find you.
Oh, yep.
Well, you can find me on Twitter. First of all, it's Snicktendo at Snicktendo. Somebody is squatting Super Nicktendo, and it's a dead account. So maybe once I get like 100,000 subscribers, I'll pester Twitter to give me that name. And then you can find me on YouTube at Super Nicktendo. So if you type in Super Nicktendo, it'll take you right to me now. I've managed to build enough SEO where it doesn't ask, do you mean Super Nintendo, idiot? And I'm like, okay, well, fine. So now, I've built up a good SEO presence. So now if you do type in Super Nintendo on YouTube, it'll pull it up.
Luke fucking Bryan, the goddamn bane of our existence. You type in our page, you start with Drink a Beer, it just goes to the Luke Bryan song Drink a Beer, and we're never going to top that. So as far as that search goes, we're kind of screwed.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing too. It's like I've managed to get the front page of Google also, like almost the entire front page is me. So that's good. But some guy owns SuperNintendo.com and he won't let it go. I messaged him and I was like, hey, like, would you be willing to sell it? And he's like, no, I use it all the time. I was like, no, you don't. Like, I see it. It's like a dead domain. Like, give it to me.
You haven't updated since 2013. Give me the goddamn thing.
Yeah, I was like, well, maybe I'll just like squat it. And like now they prevented that stuff ever since like Google got snaked that one time.
You might get lucky. He might pull like a Konami and just let SilentHill.com slide. So maybe you can slide in there one day.
I'll keep an eye on it. But yeah, like, I mean, at the same time, though, it's like having a snappy website name isn't as important as it used to be. So
yeah,
it's true.
Yeah, it's fall. I mean, just a website in general, I feel like anymore, it's tough enough to drive from Twitter to YouTube or this or that. It's, you know, if somebody's on the median they want to see you on, that's it.
Yeah.
Going directly to websites is all but fallen by the wayside.
Yeah, I post my links on Reddit and everything too, just to get like a good backlink score.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I tried building a site a long time ago. I actually still pay for the domain. It's like supernintendo.net or something like that. And it unfortunately, like, I haven't been able to keep up with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I definitely hear you, but it's funny because, you know, speaking of especially your YouTube, you know, I know Jim and we've been friends with you. Jim, I've said many times, is a Twitter guy, but I was really excited. I mean, one of the videos that really rung true to me that you released was the limited run games losing their way.
That
I've been bitching about them because I did the crazy super edition of Castlevania, the Castlevania edition thing, and it took, I don't know, easily over a year, and it was my first experience with limited run because Jim had like gotten a bunch of very what I'd call random games off of them, but he always got the standard edition, and I was always like, that's an interesting concept, and you know, I always liked the idea, but your video, you know, summarizes, I think, all the issues with them really, really well. And I know we have an article that we're going to get to a little bit later, which you could say is on the same point, but I was kind of curious, like, watching that video, clearly you were such a big supporter of them. Did you have any heartburn when making that video? Like, I've been supporting them for so long, but...
I debated back and forth on that video.
Yeah.
That video's been like 6 to 8 months in the making. You know, I follow price trends on video games. That's like my main draw for my channel. Mm-hmm. And I like to keep it like I like to switch it up a little bit. Like one of my breakthrough videos for that was Metal Jesus Rocks affecting retro video game prices. And
Mm-hmm.
3 years ago, I did one on limited run and like how the prices would trend over time. And so I was like, well, maybe I'll do a follow up because people still watch that video and stuff. And, it's still actually kind of an evergreen video when you think about it. But I was like, well, let's go. And the problem with limited run games, like the prices, like once they get up to like 150 to $200, that's where they stay forever. Like they don't
Mm.
come down. There's no volatility at all with them. Like, and I started the video out like I was like, okay, let's follow price trends in video games, but like, how am I going to make it interesting? Because like all my other videos, I'm like, well, this is going down, this is going up, and like if I did like 25 limited run games, they would just be it's up, just buy it whenever. It would be a really boring video. So I was like, well, maybe I'll do it like where limited run games are like blue chip uh the blue chip stocks of
Yeah.
video games or something where you buy them and they essentially just hold their value forever and stuff, because it's like even if like you like Shantae, for example, is like crazy expensive and it was an open pre-order game. So like if you were smart back in the day, you could have bought like 30 copies and just like sat on them and just like
Mm-hmm.
every like 2 or 3 weeks, like just plop one up on eBay for $400 and just watch the cash just roll in. It's like it's crazy. But as I was like going through it, I was like, there's a lot of controversy around limited run games for the most part. Like one, they're very aggressive, or at least they used to be on Twitter. Like Josh Fairhurst is, the founder. And like he used to be like super aggressive, and like
Yeah,
there
he was
was
a
the
spicy boy for a bit.
and like that's the thing is like for the most part, like you can't say anything about limited run games without them like popping in or some of their fans like tagging them. So it's kind of like they're almost everywhere. But it's so I was like, well, let's kind of like look into that. And I was like, well, what kind of problems do I have personally of it? Because there's a whole bunch of other limited run sucks videos out there, and like they pretty much like compile the complaints and grievances of everybody, and like they just kind of pull it in. And like the one thing that I've noticed is that the founders have been able to just like dismiss those videos as like just FUD, where they just kind of like, oh, this guy's just a hater, or it's fake news, it's just conspiracy theory, like it's got a lot of half truths in there and stuff, you can't really like listen to that, like don't worry about it. So like I was like, okay, well, how do I make like an argument video that like they can't it's as objective as possible, because
Yeah.
there's plenty of like superficial things that you can complain about with them, like the shipping times, the game variety or something like that. It's like Bill and Ted edition collection, just crappy games that they just put out. There's like the Poop Slinger and the Revenge of the Bird King controversies and stuff. Those are all subjective things that have been just tired up. So I was like, well, here's the things that I have. And like the main crux was that Scott Pilgrim versus the World was taking forever to get. Like even in that video, like it had been like over 500 days since I got it, because
Mm-hmm.
it finally came in the mail, and people are still waiting for that game because and on top of that, because I ordered like a whole bunch of other stuff with that, like because of the Scott Pilgrim vinyl, that's what really held it up. I ordered $300 worth of stuff. So they take all your money up front and then they just sit on this stuff. So like the games that I had ordered, like they're sitting in the warehouse collecting dust, and
Mm-hmm.
like and they're just sitting there because they don't ship everything. If you make the error of like buying it thing, but I was like, because the way I buy them is like if I spend over $100 and I put it on PayPal, like I get 6 months same as cash. So it's
Mm.
just easier for me to just like pay over time without accruing interest. So I was like, I'll just, these are the ones that I want, and I put them in there. And so that's what I started getting more and more upset as I like started writing the video. And so like in that video, you can, I think you can kind of see like that I'm not necessarily like super angry, but I'm like definitely disappointed in them, because I didn't want to roast them either.
Yeah.
Like specifically the owners. Like I didn't really want to personally attack them because like I've never had an issue with them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I've reached out to Josh in the past and like he's answered my questions about limited run. And I don't really have a problem with them. So that was the one thing I was like, I want to make sure that I'm like as objective as possible and stuff. And like I found like random tweets and all this other stuff. And then I was like, I filmed it and then I like reshot it and rewrote it. So like that's the one episode where I think I put the most like rewrites into them, because most of the time like I'll write an episode and I'll like tweak it a little bit and I'm like okay, that's good, and I'll just like launch it and publish it and it works, you know, unless I have some camera issues or something. I've never gone back like rewatched my video and it just been like that doesn't make any sense, like I'll rework it and stuff. But the backlash that I got on that was like insane. It was
Sorry to cut you off, but like, what do you call it? You're right about like the owners and stuff like that, because they do take a lot of shit. Like Doug just had to go private, and he just recently went like, look, any limited run questions, send it to the limited run account. Like, I'm not answering business questions anymore on here. Like, he's got people doxing him and shit, and it's like, you can be pissed at the company, but like, don't pull the stupid internet shit on him either. Like,
and that was my main thing. I was like, I don't want to like send more hate towards them specifically, because like Doug is one of the people, like he, you know, before he like mentioned that like this is the last like all requests, like he was one who was like perpetually like online. Like if you go in, like if you type in his name on YouTube and stuff, like you can kind of see him like comment on videos that are like trashing him and stuff. So it's not necessarily like, you know, I don't condone any harassment or anything like that to him, but like at the same time though, it's like if you're going to be that big of a high profile guy, like you have to learn to let people just be angry at you and not engage, because like that's kind of the mantra of video game nerds, right? It's like you tell people to calm down and like it just makes it 10 times worse. So it's kind of like you just have to like let it just burn itself out.
Yeah. Yeah. Engaging with folks is always the worst. But like you said, it was just, I didn't think in the video, it's not that, I feel like you weren't taking a shot. It wasn't cheap shots. It was, you know, it was a good analysis of it. And like you said, it is amazing. And I don't want to, you know, we could talk about each one of your videos at length, but I mean, going over the value of games and how YouTubers, like you hit Metal Jesus, you know, I think the first one I ever noticed making an impact was AVGN, and you know, you look at some of these price chartings and effects YouTubers or whatever has. It is interesting, and I do like that you pointed out that price point of like once they hit a certain threshold, it's no coming back down. Like, it's like, yeah, if they're in the 30s, 50s, maybe they'll sink again. But yeah, when it hits that couple hundred, 200 especially, yeah, good luck with that ever again.
Yeah, that's kind of the crazy thing with prices in general. It's really interesting to see like what will hit and then like what will come back down and crash. And most of the time, yeah, like Little Samson, you're never gonna see for under $1,000 again. I would wager, you know, money on that. Earthbound, you might see come down a little bit lower, but even after now, it's like game prices right now are now into the point where collectors, like, you know, I'm gonna make a video on it eventually, but like just speculating without any research whatsoever, just like what I've seen is like, you know, putting on the tinfoil hat, it's these, you know, with the WADA game thing, like there are now collectors who used to collect baseball cards, they used to collect comic books, they used to collect anything that like used to be just like superficial, and now
Beanie Babies.
yeah, like anything that like is, yeah, like that you can't really like, you put a thing on it and like they'll go in, they'll be like, okay, like I'm gonna collect like Shantae, for example. Like Shantae, the series, you know, it's one of those series that got like popular, and now everything that's Shantae is just crazy high expensive. Atlas games, like those are crazy high expensive. It doesn't matter the quality of the game. You know, and like that back catalog is just like crazy high. Um, you know, like the working design, their horror genre is getting, you know, crazy too. Like there's a whole bunch of games now that like people are taking a look at Moby Games and like any of these other like catalog things and being like, okay, this game is expensive, like Taito, like the Taito, like Little Samson is expensive. Why is it expensive? Oh, well, it's got the Taito logo in the back here. Okay, well, now all Taito late cartoon games are now expensive. Like the that Jetsons game never used to be that expensive. It was like around $100 for a long time. It was kind of pricey, but then like it just like shot up because it was like that halo effect now. So, you know, we're gonna probably see eventually like variants get like crazy because it's like, you know, there's a copy of Final Fantasy VII that has like a misprint on the back of it. It's like a misspelling or something like that. So we might see like that specific variant go high, but like beforehand, like variants and like the five screws, like some of the five screws are more expensive, but like that stuff like didn't really matter unless like you personally like wanted to do that. Like the price difference wasn't that significant to make it a difference. But now like we've gotten to the point where it's like these collectors now only care about the aesthetic of it, because now you have WADA which is pretty much just grading a piece of plastic. You're not basing it off of like the historical significance of the game or whether or not the game is good. It's just going to be expensive.
So as you're making these Retronomics videos, are you ever like going through the price charting and checking eBay and being like, you know what, let me just snag this right now while I'm here, and then like doing a little future proofing for yourself? You falling down
I've
that
thought
hole
of
bad?
it. So that's kind of the thing right now is like, because I've made Retronomics videos, I don't necessarily buy video games anymore. Like just based off of like, because once you start like looking into like what this stuff actually costs and like how much you're spending on it and like your backlog and stuff, you're like, I'll just leave it. Because like that was one thing that when I was doing the PlayStation 3 video, the PlayStation 3 prices were just like cracking off. Like they were just like really like they were reaching the apex. Like I had caught it like right before it like crested, and I was like, I could probably sell. I could sell 5 PlayStation 3 games for $1,200 and like finally buy Little Samson. And I was like, okay, like because Africa and like I had Folklore, 3D Dot Games Heroes, and all these other games that were just like expensive just for no reason other than that they were, you know, I think I had some PlayStation games too to add it out, like Parasite Eve 1 and 2 that I got like for $10 like forever ago. But I was like, you know, and then I couldn't manage to like I couldn't manage to like just sell them. Like I couldn't part with them. So I mean,
Same.
that's one thing I was like, I should probably buy this before it pops off. But then again, I was like, I don't want to buy because I'm speculating on value, and like that's one trap that I used to get into a lot. Like I would see on game collecting on Reddit, and like I would buy this game. I was like, oh, I gotta buy this game like real quick and stuff, you know. And then I'd be like, I get it in the mail. And I was like, yes, I got it. And then it would just go on my shelf, and like I would never play it. And I was like, it's kind of a waste of money. I'm like, you look at it your shelf, and you're like, man, that's all this money that I could have spent on something else. So
you're preaching to the choir with Jim.
Yeah, I even told him in his video. So I got lucky with like Shantae because I was like, you know, people fucking obsess about Shantae. I'm just gonna buy these while they're here. I don't even like the games, and luckily for me, like that worked out. But then, as you mentioned with Katamari Damacy on the Switch, when they were saying, oh, it's gonna be a limited run, I was like, oh shit, I better get this now. So you couldn't find them anywhere. I paid like $70 on Amazon to get it. And then a week later, they're like, oh, just kidding. We printed more, and it went down to $10. I was like, well, fuck me.
I took a gamble on Poop Slinger, though. I bought Poop Slinger, and I was, because like people were like, oh, it's a scam. Blah, blah. I was like, well, it's PayPal, so like if it turns out like it'll be, I can get my money back. So I bought one copy, and it showed up, and I was like, oh, cool. Then I sold it for like $400 because I was like, these guys, it's limited run. Like limited run is playing this game. Like there's no way, because it's like all the like things were there. Like Doug had retweeted it and been like, oh, I wonder what this is. I was like, sure, you're in on it. Like, like it's one of your employees, it's somebody there. And I was like, well, the minimum print order for these games is like 5,000. Like you can't just print 80 copies. Like there are more copies available. So it's like, well, it'll be just like Revenge of the Bird King. They're going to show up at their store. They're going to show up at the con and all thing. And they haven't yet. And like now, like a copy's going for like $4,000. I was like, I wish I would have like sold it later. But then again, like I have like the worst luck when it comes to selling stuff and like betting on things. So like if I had held on to it, then yeah, like it would have been re-released and the thing would have been like $20 or something stupid. Like I slept on Bitcoin, I slept on GameStop, like, all these things. I was like, it's never going to take off. And then now it's thing, but all the other stuff that I did buy into, it's worthless. So, so you're welcome.
Well, I mean, Nick, you said something. See, I've definitely never fed into that idea of like, I don't want to try. You're trying to treat video games like a stock, essentially. Like, and some of these people buy into value like that. And yeah, collectibles, like if baseball cards, Pogs, Beanie Babies, all those things have ever taught us something, there will be at a point when people they don't care anymore. And not to say that people won't always collect and things won't have value, but like, yeah, like Poop Slinger, it will be a weirdly sought after thing, but
that is a showcase piece, sir.
Is it going to add any value to you? Unless you're trying to do it for value. Like, pay the $4, it's available digitally. If you need a physical copy of Poop Slinger, do you really need a physical copy of Poop Slinger other than the bragging rights?
Yeah, and like that's kind of the thing that I've never specifically bought a game because I was going to sell it later. That's something that I don't do. Me like investigating the prices and stuff, it would be very easy for me to like see trends and like just scoop everything up and then just like flip it at a later time. But it's a lot of work that goes into it, and my time is valuable, and I can't. Mm-hmm. I've done the flipping before. Like I used to do go to thrift shops, and back when Guitar Hero controllers were like $50 to $60 a piece. Like I would just go to Goodwill, I'd find like 5 or 6 Guitar Hero controllers, clean them up really nice, make sure that I became really good at Guitar Hero because I needed to test the controllers, and like I would sell them and like I'd make money. But like at the end of the day, like your time and the amount of hassle that goes into like reselling this stuff, because you have to offer a guarantee, you have to make sure that it's clean, you can always get ripped off and all this stuff. And eventually I just like decided that it wasn't worth the effort, because I think.
All right, Nick, so I know you had a little technical difficulty, but here's one thing I did have a question for you. So we recently did a review. It was actually a Patreon request for us, and somebody is hoarding 2,700 copies of Sneak King, the Burger King game.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
So here's my question. Do you think, I feel like the same way we've seen, I want to call it artificial inflation, do you think there are people who are eyeballing like cheap games now and purposefully hoarding them with the hopes that they just take off, or trying to purposely like kind of set the price or market on those?
So kind of, it's really hard to prove. Like that's kind of the problem of it, is like it, that plausible deniability of it. However, it is possible to like manipulate the market, but it takes like you need a lot of capital to do it. Like, and the payoff of doing it isn't necessarily worth it, at least in my opinion. Like, I mean, who knows? Like maybe you're really obsessed with keeping the price inflated. I know that when the Frame Meisters started to go down after the RetroTink 4 came out. People were trying to offload them, and like there were people who like would message the sellers and stuff and be like, no, or they would buy it and then reflip it to make sure that the values stayed high. That's like an example of it. But now like RetroTinks, I mean, like you can't keep it like that forever. Like I think you can like temporarily like corner the market of it, but unless you're like a store or something like that. And I guess like DK Oldies, I don't know if you're familiar with that store.
They're actually local to us. They're only like 2 hours away, something like that.
So they're like notorious for like having like stupid high prices on their on their thing. And like, so I was talking with Game Trade Greg, and he owns a store up in near Green Bay, Wisconsin. And he was talking on his podcast. He's like, they have like an algorithm, like a little sniffer bot that goes in and makes like will scoop up prices. Like if you put like Mike Tyson's Punch Out or whatever for like $5 less than what Price Charting has it for, like apparently his store scoops it up. And then like puts it up on their store. Like
Allegedly,
like
in Minecraft,
it's a
allegedly.
hearsay kind of thing, like I can't like confirm or deny it, but like it's that if you really wanted to like manipulate the prices like that. But the problem is that these retro video games, like I think there's like a limit onto like how much you can actually like go for it. Now, I don't think that you could like buy all of the Mike Tyson's Punch Outs on eBay. Like if you were to buy them all out, there's no way that you could possibly like get $150 for a loose cartridge. At least like there's a max of it. Like I think maybe like you can probably double the price or something like that, make them go for $50 a piece or something like that. But eventually like there's a limit for people like that want to actually like buy it and stuff, like I have a Raspberry Pi. Like, I mean, I have the Mister and stuff. Like at a point there becomes like a thing. It's like, is this game really, really worth the price to have it on your shelf? And like I think a lot of people are now finding like that no, it's not worth like buying the physical thing. Like Nintendo Switch Online has like the Mr. Dream, I think, right? Yeah Punch Out with Mr. Dream. For a lot of people that's fine, like, and that's like one of the reasons why like like that's why like prices were kind of artificially inflated in the first place, because people were like, casual people were like, oh, I remember my Nintendo and stuff as a kid, like I want to buy Nintendo stuff, and they would buy it, and then they would be like, okay, and then they would just go and sell it. Like when I worked at a video game store, here in Chicago, and the 99% of the people who came in were just people who came in off the street. They would see all of the games in the thing. They would come in, they would look around, they'd be like, oh, I remember Mario Kart. And they'd be like, let's buy a Nintendo 64 right now. I want to play Mario Kart 64. Like they have like that desire to just like play it. And like they would just impulse buy it. And then 2 weeks, maybe a month later or something, they would come back and they'd sell it back to the store.
Yeah. Yep. No, like I said, I was just curious because I mentioned that was one of our Patreon reviews, but I saw that little factoid and I went, that's interesting. Somebody would hoard 2,700. And the guy he's like a pro wrestler. He's like, I just love the way it looks. He's like, and I think it's a goofy thing that to have like the largest collection of Sneak King, because it is a dirt cheap. It's like still a $5 game. So you're like, okay, that's a case where I don't think that he's actually trying to inflate price. I think it's just a goofy thing he's trying to do.
Well, and that's the thing too, is like you want to look at like how that's effective. Like you just go to there used to be a person who went and tried to buy like all of the Shaq foods Yeah, it's called shackfu.com. Like it looks like they're no longer around or something like that. But like basically like their whole goal was to buy every single copy of Shaq Fu. And I mean, they had like a fridge full of them. Like they just crazy. And like for the Sega Genesis and the Super Nintendo, like they're not. Oh man, the new price of Shaq Fu is $250. I got one for $13. Yeah, like like I still have it sealed, like because it came with the wrap CD, like the new one, like the sealed one comes with the wrap CD, and it was like only $13. I was like, yeah, I'll spend $13 on a Shaq Fu sealed copy. But yeah, like I mean, ultimately, like it depends on the game, I guess. Like you can't. I don't think you can force people to buy your copy of Shaq Fu for $100. Like I don't. It's
you just need a YouTuber out there to make a game to be his like meme game, like what Scott the Waz did with Chibi Robo.
Oh yeah, that Chibi Robo sucks so bad. I hate that game. Like
dude, I've owned it for 8 years and I still haven't even touched it. I was like, I don't want to be a robot who does chores. I was like, okay.
Yeah, I was like, oh, this sounds, it looks cute and stuff like that. And yeah, it's like, go do clean up stuff. I was like, this is
what I was gonna play it, and then I was like, how long to beat? I was like, all right, let's see how long this will take me. It took like 20 hours. I was like, fuck that. I'm not playing Chibi Robo for 20 hours.
I'm like, okay, like and that goes to show you like how old we are now, because like Scott the Waz was like 8 when he played it.
Yep.
And stuff. So
I'm very aware of how old I'm getting.
I was like, oh, he really liked Madden. What did he think of Madden 95 when it came out? And he's like, he wasn't even born yet. And I was like, oh.
You're like, God damn it. But Chambers, I did also bring that up because I want to see what questions we got this week from our awesome patrons.
Yes,
with us.
Patreon.com/DrinkABeerandPlayAGame, where for as little as $2 a month, you can ask a question and we'll answer on each and every single one of these Power Hour podcasts. So, first up, from Game Whisperer Dean. Have you noticed the trend of people getting back into collecting VHS tapes? What are your thoughts? Does it go hand in hand with typical game collector mentality, CRTs, etc.?
Yeah, I mean, I can speak to this at least. Nick, you mentioned the horror thing with video games, but I know especially in the horror community, collecting VHS tapes, I'm guilty of it. I have some back there. I just always loved the artwork, and I still had a bunch from when I was a kid. I don't buy the VHS tapes to watch the VHS, even though I still have a VHS player. Like, I do it honestly. It is a shelf collecting thing. It's 99 cents when I'm at Goodwill. I don't think anything more of it. I'm like, oh, cool. I'll get another cover of it. That is a thing I'm noticing more and more. But I look at it the same way I look at collectors for anything. I think most people get it anymore just to have the post on Instagram or Twitter, or the clout picture, as I call it. Like, to be standing in front of a big pile of something you've collected. It's just there. I know, the argument you can make with vinyls versus CDs or digital music, I don't think you can make that same argument with VHS. The quality is not going to be better, even on older TVs. I think
it's just an experience.
Oh, it is when you got to rewind it and the tape gets caught and you got to undo the back and pull the tape and
yes,
manually.
We've all broken our dad's porno, Brian.
Yeah, damn it, Jeff.
just like cassette decks and everything like that too. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's just a weird little thing. I would put it the same way as what you were saying, Nick, with collectors of video games. It's nostalgic for people our age who grew up with them. They see them in Goodwills or stores and they're like, oh yeah, I used to have that, and just buy it.
I also think like it's because they're cheap. And that's one thing too, is like one of the reasons why retro video games like collecting like kicked off. Like I was thinking back like why I really started collecting in the first place, because like in the late 90s and early aughts and stuff, I emulated. Like I had my modded Xbox like jack full of like random games and everything. I emulated like crazy. There was no reason for me to do it. And then like eventually like it came to the point where people were like, it's better to like, one, it's more accurate. At the time it was more accurate. And it was cheap. Like, why wouldn't you could just buy a handful of games? And so like when you have like that low price point, it becomes like fun to like collect, like to actually like add them to your collection and stuff. And like, I remember like the most expensive game that I bought at the time was Mega Man, the first Mega Man, because I wanted all 6 Mega Mans. And I spent $20 on the first Mega Man, and I thought that was outrageous. Because I was like, $20, like this is ridiculous. Like even like Little Samson was like $35 back then, and I was like, $35 for a Nintendo game? Like, are you crazy? Like this is ridiculous. Like, so I never saw Little Samson. Like I always wanted to like catch it because at the time too, like video stores were closing, so you could buy like a box, like almost their entire inventory for $500, and like pretty much beef up your collection. And so like that's what I think is like you're seeing a lot of people who collect just to have stuff go to VHS because like like it's nostalgic. It's pretty nice to have that piece of your childhood when you went to a video store and like you picked a video based off of like what the cover looked like and you didn't really know what was on it. Like I've been collecting laser discs, and those are fun. Nice. Because like they're record size artwork of movies that I enjoy. And sometimes like the half price books that it's in like an Asian neighborhood, and so like some of the stuff is like they're Asian movies and stuff. Like I have like a lot of Criterion Collection movies that I found at half price books for like $2 a piece, and then you find like some random like B movie that's in like Cantonese or something like that. It's kind. I was like, oh, this looks. It's like there's one. It was like this woman falls in love with a TV or something like that. It's just like a weird movie. I was like, oh, I'll pick it up for $2. Like, why not? So I think like that's one of the main draws of VHS collecting in general is that it's cheap. Like it's that's kind of like when people go like, oh, like a big price out of collecting. It's like, well, why are you collecting? Are you just collecting because it's fun to like take like a whole armful of games off of a shelf and like only spend $20 on it? Like, or are you buying them just because like the game is fun? Or are you convincing them that the game is supposed to be fun?
I've never done that.
That's all Jim does when he buys games. That's all Jim's whole collection.
But yeah, I mean, excuse me, answer his question. Yeah, I mean, eventually you get priced out of something, and it's fun to collect shit or to be like, oh, I've been looking for this, and you find it for $1. Like that's an endorphin rush. It's tough to replicate. So, it makes it fun when you move from one cheap thing to another.
Yep.
Yeah, and I don't have anything against like people who collect VHS. Like for me, like I don't know, like there has to be like a limit. For like I don't necessarily like I sympathize with people who feel like that they got priced out of stuff, but I don't necessarily feel bad when they actually like pay the price to do it and then they complain about it. It's one, like no one has a gun to your head to say that you must have this to like live or anything. It's not like housing or cars or anything else that like, or gas or something like that you need to like function in society. But also it's like you're contributing to that high price by paying that amount. Like like that's how it works. Like price charting, they look at sold listings, like so if you're spending $50 to $60 over what it would normally go, like that becomes like the new.
You're part of the problem.
Yeah. So
no, Nick, it's the fucking YouTubers like you who ruin it, so I can't buy Little Samson off of Grandma for $10 and then sell it for $1,000.
Oh yeah, like that's the other thing. Yeah, every time that we post on game collecting, and there used to be a guy who got really really upset because he's like, you find all this stuff at the thrift store and I don't find anything. Like, how dare you? You don't even need that stuff. You do it for trade bait. Like, why wouldn't you? I was like, you got career flippers who just hang out at Goodwill all day. Like, so if I didn't get it for my own personal collection or trading and stuff, like it would be gone and on eBay.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so next up from Gamer Astral. Thoughts on the Lady Decade debacle? Woo! That's one accurate way to put it. So, for those of you out there who don't know or didn't follow all of it as it was going down, we're recording on the 16th, about a week ago. Lady Decade put up a video because Top Hat's channel, I mean, they're husband and wife, they both are full-time YouTubers. He got a copyright strike on a video, and he couldn't, upload until he adjusted that kind of deal. And she put up a video where she's basically, let's put it to the chase. She's crying the entire time saying, they don't have the kind of money on them while they're sitting in front of a giant pile of games behind them that are worth thousands of dollars. And, showing off pictures of their kids and putting the crying woman on the screen when it's not even her channel that got affected. So, yeah, I mean, it was a whole goddamn thing. And that just sparked the whole thing across the whole, retro Twitterverse and stuff like that. So, Brian is Jim, the least internet-y person here.
But I will say, I did, because, I did see that, and it made me curious. Like, I am a creature of, hey, I see something, call it drama. I will click on the video, just what is going on. And without knowing the background, the one thing I got fascinated by is the claim is they're being contacted by somebody, and I don't know who it is. They used a photo of someone in a video, and now he's she's making it sound like he's harassing them or basically, but I'm like, can't you just take down that one video and it all goes away?
Well, so I mean, if you want to go, I was going to say, it was a picture of Ray Harryhausen that they took from a guy who did a professional video or a picture that's part of Getty Images now that was used in the New York Post, and they just took it off the New York Times article or whatever.
Yeah, based off of I've been following it for quite a bit, and there's a lot of things that eventually came out about it. I again, it's kind of just it is what it is, but apparently they knew who this guy was before they used that image. So the issue kind of comes out when it first came out, it really did seem like that they got hit by a copyright troll, somebody who just made a fake account to hit somebody with the DMCA takedown, and then or at least based off of when I saw it kind of popping up on Twitter, I thought somebody hacked their account or something like that and locked them out unless they paid an extortion fee or something like that. Because I was because they were oh, we need $500, they want $500. I was like, well, that's really bad if it's thing. But then it came out that it was a copyright strike, and it's that's kind of a tough one. Just the ultimate problem with copyright in general is everybody who's a gaming YouTuber, we're essentially running on borrowed time when it comes to copyright. You use game footage. Game footage technically doesn't necessarily fall under fair use, but game developers kind of just let it go because they know that it's the sale or something. But if you start using content from people who do not mess around with copyright, like music or these images and stuff, you better be prepared to either take the hit and take down the video or something like that, or pay for that content, or just don't use it at all. Because I saw that stuff unfold, and I was like, yeah, the guy's kind of really petty when he comes down to it, because it's first of all, I don't even know how he found the photo. That's my question too. I don't know if you can run photos through YouTube's content ID.
I think he's kind of I think he is kind of a copyright troll, or at the very least extremely protective of all of his works. So he probably has something where, because apparently he's gone after a ton of people before for abusing his photos and videos and random shit. So I guess he is kind of falls under that, even though he might be a little bit more on the professional side. So maybe he's got something in place, or I don't know. Or maybe they just tagged Ray Harryhausen in the tags for a YouTube video, and he just put that in the thing and it popped up and he was searching for it. Who knows?
But like possible. I said, here's my deal is I whatever. The guy's a troll. He has the right to whatever. what I couldn't get from their video is like they feel like they have no outing. I'm like, can't you just take that one video down? Like, why is it any more difficult than that?
Yeah, and like that's kind of the thing is like it's ambiguous, right? So that's one of the things that this guy like eventually like locked his account, so he didn't really like make a status of it, like, or any clarification of like exactly like why he did it. For all we know, like he could be just like, I want the fee because you used it. Like it doesn't matter if you take it down or not. You
Right.
still used it. You owe me $500. Like that could be very well his mentality of it. Like if we, share it or something like that, will he come after us and just like not let go? But then again, I think if you do delete the video, it does remove the copyright strike. I'm not for sure. I'm not.
Yeah.
I think so. I think your options when it comes to that, and this is something like I know, like they were very smart in their video. Like they didn't outright ask for money. They did like were saying, but they kept saying they couldn't afford it. But they were asking for advice too. And as far as the rules are probably different in the UK, but at least in America, if you get hit with the DMCA strike, you can either accept it and just deal with that, or you could have paid them off and sent them away, or you could have just disputed it and been like, no, this falls under fair use. This is why, blah, 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 blah. Like, say what you will about H3 these days, but he has a great video from a couple years ago, basically with, like, the template of what to write in there to send back to YouTube and shit like that. So, like, at that point, it's on the copyright striker to be like, okay, I'm going to sue you now then. Like, that's basically the thing. So they could have, called his bluff, too. Be like, all right, fine, sue us. Sue us for $500 or whatever.
I think he would sue him. To be honest with you, like that's what he sounds like. I mean, that's ultimately like, as much as you use like game footage and stuff for illustrative purposes. You use like random photos that you find online.
Oh yeah, we all live and die by fair use. Like,
yeah, it's like whatever. But like, I mean, that's kind of the thing though, is like you do run that risk, and at the same point, like I think I would be. I create my work and everything. And like, I've had people back when I was starting up, like I had like ideas for videos, and people would straight up like just rip off that exact format of the video to the point where it's like, like I understand like what it means to have your work like stolen, even though it YouTubers might not see it that way in a sense of like, we're all this like commune where we share everything. But like, that video specifically, like it really caused some problems because like there's a whole bunch of stuff that, one, like, let's face facts here, like Top Hat and Lady Decade, like they're notorious. Like they definitely like to push buttons. They live on controversy. Like they're not necessarily like nice people, quote unquote. I'm pretty sure like that they're, these guys play a persona. Like,
I mean, their favorite thing to do is to put comments up and to talk about like, how badass they are and smart they are, respond to them and stuff like that.
Yeah. And like, they'll make like tweets and stuff like that designed to push buttons and stuff. Like one of Top Hat Gaming's, like one of his most popular videos is saying how much better the Super Famicom looks to the Super Nintendo, right. Like it's a controversial opinion. Like the guy, both of them are controversial people. Like that's how they built their channel and stuff. Like they're no strangers to controversy. Yeah. So like, that's kind of the thing is like when
they credit, it's worked.
Well, yeah. Like, I mean, respect for them to be able to like weather the storm of like hateful comments that come their way, because like they make like these obviously bad takes and stuff to boost the engagement on their channel. But that's what like really like started people to dig though, because when she came out with that, like Top Hat Gaming, man, last year did a similar Patreon video. Like, he did like I'm sad, like I can't teach anymore. Like this is, like a call to action and stuff. And he was like, by the way, I have like a little Patreon down below. And, he got like a bunch of Patreon dollars out of it, like, and, if people want to pay, that's fine. Like I don't have any qualms against people with Patreon dollars and stuff, but yeah, so like when Lady Decade, she did that whole thing, and people felt sorry for her and boosted her Patreon. But people went digging, and they found that like she had posted like 2 weeks prior saying that, hey, like I'm gonna make a video about people coming to my Patreon and stuff, and I need an idea of like how to get people to like do the Patreon without actually like saying that I have a Patreon. So I mean, it's kind of like perfect timing, right? And they also bought like a brand new house, and like in the UK, like energy prices are just like obscene. So like, and they just got back from like a trip from Greece and stuff.
They go on mobile vacations a year and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So like at the very least, like at the forefront, it's just bad optics when like part of your gimmick is throwing off how you live the better life and enjoy the finer things in life, and then you're crying over $500, which, hey, I would hate to get a thing for $500. That would
oh yeah,
suck.
it would suck. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, if my car broke down tomorrow and stuff like that, I would, knock on wood. But like,
oh, I'm picking mine up tomorrow. $2,000. Like, yeah, it sucks. It fucking sucks cock. But
Yeah.
like no one wants to see that. But
Yeah,
it's still just like when this is your persona. Ugh.
Yeah, I just can't get over what you guys both point out is there's an element of they purposefully troll. I mean, her whole thing is like purposefully trying to feed the trolls of like holding a controller upside down in the picture. Like, oh, I'm playing this Xbox.
Oh yeah,
she'll
and I
be
know a
holding
ton of people who hate those pictures, and I'm just kind of like, all right, it's kind of funny, whatever.
No, but I'm saying
it's been 2
you're
years straight,
living off of controversy. So when I saw the crying video, I actually first thought like they're just still playing this game. So part of me was like, is it even real? Whatever it is, the copyright shit. As you said, Nick, we're all on borrowed time with that shit. At some point, even video game footage, could, if like when Nintendo was being the biggest dicks in the world, and they pretty much still are, they, in theory, any developer could do that, and all of us would be in trouble because even if we record it ourselves, it doesn't matter. It's not ours.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I really wanted to drive home with people, because like everybody's focused on whether or not like Lady Decade and them like deserve the money, but like no one's talking about like this particular, like, because everybody's pretty ignorant about fair use when it comes down to it, right? They're constantly, well, it's fair use. So I was like, fair use, like you can point to the H3 Matt Haas controversy and everything, but everybody kind of omits the fact that they spent like $500,000 fighting that in court.
Yeah.
And that's what you will have to do if you really, when it really comes down to fighting for fair use, you will have to pay for it. Like it's not a cut and dry criteria thing. Like you have to argue for it. And if you aren't prepared to go to court for it, like that's what you should be, thing. Like there's nothing stopping a conglomerate or even like this random photographer to come in and like really just mess your channel up. I don't know if these guys even have like limited liability as far as like their company, like, because that's the thing too, is like these guys, they act like they're personal YouTubers, like that the channel is tied directly to them. Like if I get to a big enough spot, like I'm creating an LLC for my channel, because if I get sued for something, like I go bankrupt, I could lose my house. That's very serious and stuff, and people should be taking this seriously. Like it's one thing to just be like, well, it's fair use on Twitter, but like when it comes down to it, like it'll cost you some money, and everyone's kind of being ignorant about that. And
well, even fucking
scary.
like, what do you call it? Even Nostalgia Critic, like what was it, like 5 years ago when he did his "Where's the Fair Use" movement, because all the major film companies started coming after his channel, because for the longest time he would just basically upload clips of movies and talk about them, until he eventually like he made this movement, but even he realized, oh shit, I'm not going to win this. So now all of his videos are just him reenacting movies and stuff. Like you can claim fair use all you want, but at the end of the day, like you're not going to beat a mega corporation. And that's why YouTube has its copyright system. Like it's not a great system, but it's YouTube going, you know what, you deal with the creators, you're on notice. You deal with it, because like if YouTube tried to defend everyone, then there would be no YouTube.
Yeah, and like that's kind of it's a clear cut in case with this particular thing. I mean, like people, will probably argue in the comments about like whether or not that picture, because it's like, oh, it was only up for 4 seconds. I'm like, it doesn't matter what the time frame is. Like, there's a lot of ignorant stuff about like using music or something like that. Oh, if it's only under a couple of seconds, no, like it doesn't matter if it's like 1 second or the full song or anything like that. Like, people can still come after you. So like that's what like is really important of it. Like, I think one YouTuber, he used like a song lyric in the intro of his song thing, and like he eventually got copyright claimed for like almost his entire back catalog because he used that like one little sound bite or something, because it's not transformative enough where you can get away with it. And that's it's a lot more than just claiming. It's back in the old days when people would re-upload like full movies on YouTube. Back in the day when it was like full Wild West, and they would just put no copyright infringement intended or something like that. It's like you can put it there, but like it's not that's not going to cover your ass if like they decide to like actually sue you.
The good old days of getting high with your buddies and putting on Soul Plane Part 1 of 15 and just sitting there through the whole thing, which we did do before.
But yeah, like, I don't know, like at the same time, like I feel a little bit bad for them, but also like they're big enough where they know what they're doing. These guys aren't small channels by any means. Top Hat has over 100,000 subscribers. I don't even know how many Lady Decade has.
She's like close to 70, and she's hit that within 2 years. And then she's been on Twitter before going off about like, she's like, people are saying it's just because I'm a woman, but 80,000, damn. But yeah, she's saying, like, oh, people say it's just because I'm a woman, but I've been working on Top Hat's channel this entire time too, so I know the game. It's like, if you know the game, then you should know this too. So
yeah, and so like that's kind of the thing. I mean, they're husband and wife duo, so it's like, and like her husband's like, they both work together and stuff, on this stuff, and like they constantly like, you can admire them too, like specifically about like how much they've like cracked the algorithm to just like bank content and just have it pump out like just on a thing. Like they released a 14-minute video on 4 days ago, and then now just 7 hours ago another 12-minute video. It's like every week, like with content and stuff.
Yeah, they put the work in. Yeah.
So like that's kind of the thing. Like you can appreciate the hustle on it. Specifically, like the whole haters gonna hate type thing. Like at the same time, like I wish that I could have that much dedication to making these videos and stuff. But like at the same time, though, I can't live with myself if I'm like constantly pissing people off on Twitter.
Yeah. No, hey, you know what? Cheers to them. Good luck with that. I think they'll be fine at the end of the day. But I think
they're already back to uploading. Like they probably just put a dispute in or figured
I'm just
out,
saying, like I think they will. This will not be the last of a controversial thing from them.
Oh no! Like it happens every 6 months or something like that. Like that's what they do. Like that's the reason why I muted them on Twitter and stuff, because I can't be hassled with how they rile people up on Twitter and stuff. Like that's what they do. Like they'll find some negative comments or something like that. Like they had she had like a problem with some commenter made like a thing about like how she pronounced something. I forgot exactly what it was. I think it was Mario or something. Like she's because they're from the UK, so it's like they have a different accent and stuff. And like I found that somebody linked me the tweet, and I was like, oh, these people again. Like so like I just like retweeted it. I was like FYI, like American English is actually closer to the original English than current UK English is right now. Like, but at the same time though, I was like, I would never make fun of somebody for saying ZX Spectrum or something like that, saying Z instead of Z or something, or
I only say Z just to piss them off.
And
I
we get bitched at too with our fucking Philly accents because we say Mario, and everyone's like, "Oh, Mario." It's like, shut the fuck up.
Well, Jim, people just have a problem that you sound like Squidward. That's all.
We have like a long elongated A, so it's like
Yeah.
I said near automata and stuff like that, and like people are like, it's near automata, and I was like, near automobile Lamborghini, like, is that
Shut up, you fucking nerds.
it's like who?
Well, it's almost like it's almost cringy and corny at this point that people still like when you're from Philly, you still say water. Like that we don't say water. Like but people will still point it out. It's like, yeah, everyone knows that. Like Philly says it's stupid. We get it. I don't care. That's how I'm going to say it, you know?
Yeah, my
It's
cousin
funny when you're in a
say
different
Porsche.
state and they're going, "You want a what?" Like, they're
Yeah.
not even trying to be dicks about it. They just
had
don't know
that
what the hell
many
you're saying.
times. Yeah, I've had that many times.
In Iowa, they call bags sacks.
Sacks.
They're like, "Do you want a sack?" And I was like, "No, I want a bag." And they're like,
Yeah.
"Shut up." Or if you go to Minnesota, they go big.
Big.
Last up from
Yeah.
Phony Montana. Do you think cross-platform gaming online will be the standard going forward on major home consoles? P.S. Any update on that small-ass 16-bit Sega game I requested 3 months ago that you grabbed tons of footage from all over the internet? I am playing it. Choking on my rage. I actually started recording footage of it today. When I posted that picture of the retro tank with the Elgato, I was playing Sonic 3 and Knuckles, so I'm working on it. So
Can't believe you got a goddamn retro tank.
I already had the retro tank 2X, but I was like, the 5X, yeah, I'll do a little future proofing.
What's $300? Who cares?
That was like my last big gaming purchase. So I didn't have like talking about going back to game prices. I didn't even do it purposely, but I haven't bought a game on eBay since fucking February because like I'd be like, oh, let me check this game. Nope. Let me check this game. Nope. So like I'm priced out. So
Hey Jim,
what?
you should have just emulated.
Well, it's tough to
Have you
emulate.
ever
And
heard
the
of the
Sonic
Mister?
Origins collection sucks with its emulation. So yeah.
But no,
And I bought this
yes.
months ago, by the way, so I didn't
It's
buy
the
it just for
Mister.
this.
Have you ever heard of it? Come on now.
Oh, there's pie.
Throw away your games.
Yes, I do think. I think the biggest thing that would stop cross-platforming is the pissing contest that is right now. Microsoft and PlayStation, if they're buying up actual developers and they try to make them system exclusives, even then though, I don't think they would really cut off. Like, I think if it's available on another platform, you're going to see cross-platforming. I think once they were able to figure out the gap between PC and consoles, that kind of opened up the floodgates. So I can't think of a current modern multiplayer online game that isn't cross-platform. So I can't imagine it's not going to continue down that path. The only
There's a lot of stuff that like PlayStation won't talk to like Xbox, and Xbox won't talk to like Nintendo or something.
Well, I'm saying that's available on the other systems though, because right now there isn't any that's on both systems. Fortnite's, Call of Duty's, any game that's on all systems, including PC, that I can think of.
I don't think Call of Duty talks to PlayStation yet.
It does, because I play with Mole and he plays with his friends on PlayStation.
Oh, really? Oh, I'll be damned.
Yeah.
All right.
So it's one of those deals where, as long as it's on the system, yeah, you're going to have cross-platform. The only one that can't really do it, because it's not good enough, is Nintendo consoles.
Hey,
'Cause I
depends on
don't
the
think
game. Like Rocket League and Fall Guys, they're cross-platform with everything.
Yeah, and that's why
Fortnite.
That's why Switch players always lose on those, because it sucks. I'm just saying, Jim. It's a fact. They're like, oh, who's this guy? It's like lagging behind everything. But yes,
My
I
Rocket
do
League is a
believe.
little laggy. I'll say that.
I believe they really will be the future. I do like that because that bridges the gap of the bullshit idea of like, I only play on this system. I only do on this. Like, we have friends that have different consoles, and it is nice being able to play with them. So, yeah, I imagine that'll stay going forward unless it's a console exclusive.
Yeah, I don't play online enough to have really a horse in the race, to be honest with you. I used to play on PC and stuff, and like I like the way that the crossplay actually like works, because like it's always been kind of dumb. Like if you had to have to choose like which console to buy and stuff. Like I made the mistake. I bought the Xbox One in 2013 instead of the PlayStation 4, and like nobody had it. So, like I can understand like
We
if
had
you're
it.
I had the day one edition, like the day one edition Xbox, but like still, like it's one of those things. It's like you should be able to have like at least some preference on like how you want to play your games, and like still be able to play like the cross-platform games. I mean, like unless you're playing against some guy with a keyboard and mouse versus a controller or something like that, like then it becomes like unbalanced. But like,
Oh yeah, no, I don't think cross-platform is balanced at all. I think every time in any of those games when you know you're playing a PC person, it's staggering the difference, and that I don't know how you ever correct, if they ever can. But I still like the idea of like, say you have an Xbox and you are playing a Call of Duty, it just so happens to be played more on PC or PlayStation, then the server won't just go dead. You'll be able to find other players. So I like, because it gives longevity to these games that we see dead servers on so many multiplayer games.
yeah, that's one thing. Yeah, at least because nothing sucks like to get into a game and then like it just goes dead. I think like what Friday the 13th is notorious for like just shutting down, and
Yeah, that
like,
got hit by the copyright owners for the franchise too. So that was his own can of worms. But even something that just like colossally failed, like Evolve. So you got that too, or Battleborn. We came out the same time as Overwatch. Oops.
But yeah, what do you think, Chambers?
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for it. You know what it is? It's anything else. Money talks. So the second everyone realizes that, it'll probably just be in their best interest to let everyone play against each other regardless of platform, and they'll make the most money, milking microtransactions and shit like that in the long run, then have at it. That's when it'll finally happen. So, and I think we're basically getting there, and if it doesn't happen this generation fully, it'll be the next one.
Exactly. Yeah. So no, that was a good question. Thank you, bud.
Yep. And yeah, that wraps up the questions for this week. So once again, thank you to everyone who is helping out the show over on Patreon. If you're new to the page, please check it out over there. We have exclusive content, bonus podcast episodes, game and movie review requests that we can do, all kinds of stuff. So check us out there. And if you are listening on iTunes or Spotify, please hit that 5-star review button. Leave a comment. We'll read any 5-star review that you leave us.
All right, Chambers. So it is interesting. We were just talking about copyright and cross-platforming and all this. And here we have the continual pissing match between Microsoft and Sony, where Microsoft is claiming that Sony pays a blocking rights to stop certain games from coming on to Game Pass. And this comes to us from GameSpot.com. But did you read a little bit into this?
Yeah, so apparently, of all fucking places, so according to documents filed with Brazil's national competition regulator, Microsoft is claiming that Sony has paid blocking rights to developers to prevent their games from being added to Game Pass. And yeah, apparently as part of the regulator's review of the acquisition of Activision Blizzard by Microsoft, the company alleged that Sony had hampered the growth of Game Pass with its business practices. But then it also kind of goes on to be like, this is kind of what always happens. Like, these platforms always pay people to have timed exclusives and exclusivity and shit like that.
Yeah.
Or look at like Street Fighter V, how like Sony helped pay for the development of the game, so that's why that was an exclusive.
Same thing with No Man's Sky. Like, I mean,
Yep. Yeah. I mean that's the thing is, I feel like that's not a new practice. I think what's funny though is Sony got some news in the past 2 weeks about kind of bitching about Microsoft and really going at them about like Call of Duty. Like, you can't make that a time exclusive, even though now Microsoft owns the company. They're like, that'll hurt our sales. Like, they're trying to sue Microsoft from stopping them to do a time exclusive. But that's what PlayStation has always done. And they even did it with Call of Duty, at least early access to betas and things like that. Even with
and you
Call
get
of
like
Duty.
exclusive maps or
So I'm
characters.
like, it's funny that Sony's gonna cry about it, but still keep doing it to Microsoft. It just seems odd.
It's a strategy. Like, I mean, that's what all it boils down to. It's business. Like, that's kind of the one problem about people treating corporations like people and stuff. It's like it all just boils down to money. They know that, like, specifically like certain exclusives that primary go on their platform will hurt their business. But at the same time, though, it's like I feel that at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. Like maybe it just hurts your quarterly reports and stuff, but like at the end of the day, it levels out.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just funny the level of like pettiness that this like pissing match is going to, where they're like filing these like actual like legal claims and shit like that against standard business practice.
Well, I mean, that's kind of the thing. It's like that's one of the things that you just have to do. Like, I mean, that's ultimately like I work in a regulatory industry and stuff where everything is outlined and everything and redlined, and if you don't speak up in court and stuff, then it sets a precedent, and all this other stuff becomes all this stuff. It's really, same thing with the fair use stuff. It's like if you don't really fight it and stuff, eventually it just becomes harder and harder over time to do it. And like the lawyers at Sony need to get paid sometimes, so like they need to make sure that they their retainer is worth the price. So like God, they come in and just just be
Why
like,
did I not pay more attention in college?
So like I mean like that's ultimately like the problem with it. At the end of the day, it's just business. And like I think Sony makes kind of a good point about Game Pass. Like you can tell, like based off their premium subscription model and stuff, they don't really like the all you can eat style that Microsoft is offering and stuff. And it's very clear that like the reason why Microsoft is doing this is because they want to get more market share.
Yeah.
Based off of the announcement that the Xbox One sold half of the PlayStation 4. Yep. So like Sony speaking up on that, like I think they know that this Game Pass thing is probably eating into their sales.
For sure. Yeah, 1,000%. Like I said, it's something that's not new. We're going to see it time and time again. But it's always interesting to hear about it. Like kind of now we know for sure that they're straight up paying to try to block some stuff, which once again, it's not shocking.
It works for the developers. I know a handful of like indie devs and stuff, and like it's hard work to get your game actually like noticed by these big guys. Back in the day, like it used to cost indie game studios $100,000 to publish their games on Xbox 360. Back in the day, you needed deep pockets for it. And now, like, because of the wave of like Ouya and like all these other like the popularity of Steam and everything about like indie games, like like Sony and these companies are starting to take notice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, even back in the day, like we had Celia on from Yacht Club Games, Shovel Knight. Like Xbox was the only one that didn't get a physical copy of Shovel Knight back in the early Xbox One days because their indie, deals were just so ridiculous. Until they're random, like, we're having our indie showcase, blah, blah, blah stuff. But
yeah, I mean, I'm friends with some of the people who work on Young Horses because they're the people behind Octodad and Bugsnax.
Nice.
So, like, it was really awesome for us to see them on the stage, like on Sony's stage to, showcase Octodad, because Sony, like, actually put in the effort to have those guys on there. So, it's competition makes it great for everybody else and stuff. And so like, I think that it's really good that like Game Pass is actually causing Sony to actually pay attention and like work to pay more on like, these games to not be on Game Pass, because it means that more developers, like they get more attention and they get more money and stuff. And, it breaks up the dominance of EA and Activision and all these other big studios that, work their developers to the bone with crunch and stuff. And now, these passion projects can start to come up again instead of like what's just like the flavor of what FIFA microtransaction mechanics are going to work this year or something like that,
Right. And you never know. Like you could buy that one little indie company, you could buy the next fucking Mojang that just makes the next Minecraft, basically. Or the next Five Nights at Freddy's, and you never see it coming. So you never know.
Yeah. Yeah. No, but we'll keep tracking this. I mean, like I said, it won't be the last time, but it was an interesting article that Chambers put there.
And Brian, speaking of publishing independent games
Ooh,
and going back to Nick's content,
yep. So a tweet sent out by Super Rare Games. It's basically their response, and it's 2 pictures, full text apology, I'll call it, of the.
can I just say real quick, I'm fucking sick of the notepad apology just posted to social media.
I know it's very lazy, but they're basically discussing the re-release of Mutant Mudds under limited run because that's coming out. Now, when I first read this, I said, like you said, Jim, on the tweet, like, oh, I guess people are really bitching about this. And I already did notice
Collectors
some
are
people.
bitching about
Well, collectors are bitching about it. But going back to our discussion about limited run to begin with on Nick's stuff, my whole thing is Super Rare Games, it's not their fault that the developer can, in theory, go to other companies after the fact. I don't know if there is such a thing as a lifetime exclusivity contract. Maybe there is. Maybe they broke it. I don't know. But it's weird that, like, limited run, for all the problems they have, it's not like they're trying to say that this is the only time and exclusive you're ever going to get this. Whereas I feel like that's what Super Rare kind of is trying to say.
Nah, limited run, they kind of said that for the longest time.
But
Not
like,
anymore as much, but there was a while where it was just kind of implied where it's like, oh, you better get it here because it's never going to be anywhere else.
And that's what one of the people, I love one of the guys, he's like, so you were just lying in the past when you said you had exclusive rights. And they are like, responding to him directly. They're like, only 2 out of our 73 games have ever re-released in 5 years. I'm like, one, it's always weird to just respond to anyone on Twitter. As we were talking about, like with the limited run responses, but I don't look at this as a Super Rare Games issue. If you're a collector and you're mad, and by the way, what the fuck is Mutant Mugs? I looked it up. I'm like, someone's really this upset about that? Like, that's this fucking made in paint game? Like, what are we talking about here?
Yeah, it's like an RPG Maker game, I believe. Like, I don't know too much about it, but like Muds are like some. It's like an old Dungeons and Dragons type thing. Like it's like some D&D thing that it used to be, but like that's the one thing about these games is that, like, I think Super Rare's mistake is that they implied that it would always be exclusive.
Always be, yeah.
Whereas like limited run, they covered their asses a long time ago. When they said specifically, they're like, this specific version, this artwork, this collector's edition, whatever
slip cover
is exclusive to limited run. The exclusivity ends when our publishing finishes. Like, they might have like a deal where you can't go to another manufacturer for a year or 6 months or whatever it is, but they are perfectly cool with the developer saying like, hey, we want to, like, we finally got enough money from the limited run release. Like, it was really popular. People missed out on it. They're spending $250 or something stupid on this game. It's going to be worth it for us to double dip and like back in and like find another publisher to reprint it.
Hey, Nick.
That's so stupid, Jim. That's so stupid.
But
no, here's the deal.
For anyone on the audio version, I just held up Streets of Rage 4, the original limited run version, which after that, like 5 other companies released their versions.
Like,
and then
literally,
their
like
own version,
the better versions, Jim.
2 weeks.
They are better
Not
versions.
even-
We got fucked. This goddamn clamshell
Jim.
doesn't even met the style of the other clamshells.
Jim,
It's too goddamn
you
big.
got fucked because you were stupid enough to get it after you had 2 different online versions already. Like, that was so stupid for you to
Brian,
get
I love
that.
me my game. I love me my game.
But it doesn't matter. You knew better. You knew better. That's the thing. If you were
I knew buying
new
it was
guy,
a waste. I already spent $40 over 2 consoles buying it, and
That's
I bought
my
it a
point.
3rd time. And if I wasn't drunk and hit the wrong button, I would have bought it a 4th time to get a headband. But luckily that didn't go through. So.
And Jim, the other important part of that is, how was I still better than you at that game when you have 3 versions of it? It's amazing.
I'm not a good night of player.
But no. But to Nick's point, so that is one thing though that Super Rare is trying to say now. They're like, hey, we're telling you of our version, and they have like a numbering system, like Super Rare number 32. There's only 4,000 copies that have ever been made. So our version, that's it. We have never produced another one. So that version of the game that's it for sure. But yeah, like I don't know if they went above and beyond.
What was that tweet you sent me that was interesting? Where like they're like trying to fight back and be like, well, yeah, I mean, it's only what was it? Sorry.
Well, the thing that I showed you was the guy was like upset because they didn't mention that in the first place. Like they didn't kind of like clarify it. That's the one thing that I sent you. Like that's kind of the thing too. Is like what. I got a lot of
people were defending Super Rare instead of being like, oh, he's kind of right.
Yeah, he's like, oh, this is like the worst take ever. Like, how could people cry so much about it and stuff? And it's like, that's the kind of thing that I got on my limited run video. Like, there were tons of people being like, why are you even crying about this? This is even an issue. Like, why? Who cares? Like, as long as it, like they're okay with like, as long as it comes with the game or something like that, apparently the company can do no wrong. You can't criticize a company just because you support them and stuff. Like,
I'm sure our buddy PK in Universe is happy to be waiting about 575 days.
He's still waiting. He's so upset. Like he came over to my house a couple of weeks ago and I showed him the vinyl. So like,
he's like, man, this is a good vinyl. Wouldn't you like to have this?
God, like he's so mad about that. But like, so like, but that's, I don't know, like that's ultimately the thing is like Super Rare. Like I think most of these like limited run print companies and stuff, you can tell that they're not necessarily run by savvy business people who know how to cover their butts down the line. They're not really thinking too far ahead and stuff. And like, I'm pretty sure that they meant well when it came down to like what is an exclusive thing. But like honestly, if you're buying a game just because it's super rare, like what are you doing, man? Like I don't know.
You're taking a risk anyway, so if it doesn't work out, then that's on you.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure like those people were pissed about like the Wrath of the Bird King or something like that, like it's just like, oh, because like in the early days, limited run, like they mentioned too, they're like, if a game doesn't sell out within the first 2 days and stuff like that, we get like tons and tons of emails looking to cancel it because it's not going to be as rare as it could be and stuff. So there's a whole market, a subset that supports solely these limited print companies on the whole thing that these games are rare. And it's like, that's a gamble. Like if you want to take it, but I mean, it's not like Nintendo Switch cartridges aren't being unproduced anymore. Like with the Vita, like, right. Vita games and stuff, like you could absolutely say that there's never going to be another re-release of Super Meat Boy ever again. So like if you have a copy of that for the Vita, then you're going to be rolling in deep because like I think there weren't a lot of those.
I tried. That sold out instantly. Yep.
Yeah.
No, but I like that, like you said, more for having Nick on here. I saw that one and I went, that's just silly.
Yeah, I mean, it also, like I said before, it's like, it shows kind of like who's buying this thing, because it's like, these aren't gamers that are buying this stuff. They're strictly collectors. Like they want it because it's rare. It's a super, it's a foil release of a comic book or something like that. It doesn't matter to them. Like they're upset, but like at the same time though, it's like you still have the variant, like it's still a rare variant. Like it's not gonna,
Like, if somebody, like you said, the 5-screw, the misprinted label, like if you want to say you have one of these super rare games, number whatever release, okay, make it its own little niche.
Yeah, I mean, if you want a complete set of super rares and stuff, like somebody is definitely gonna like come along who got into it late and is probably gonna look for a copy of Mutant Muds, but they only want the super rare version. Yeah. They don't want the limited run version because, as prefaced by my video, like not a lot of people are very happy with limited run at the point, and if they can buy somewhere else, they will. So. Like
even like what do you call it? Like fucking half the time anymore, like a limited run release, if it's big enough, like Shredder's Revenge, perfect example. Like it came out on limited run. I think the UK version, one of those other like knockoff limited runs. PlayAsia had a version. Something else had a version. Like a lot of these are coming out in like 4 different limited run style things right out of the bat anyway.
Yeah,
So
they're all variants
you're just
now.
picking what like plastic bullshit you get sent with it at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you want to be like Jim and just get a copy for every version of like a game, like he's trying to do a river raid.
1, I finished that.
But I'm
And
just
2,
saying.
I have no 2.
But I'm saying like this is another example why it could be valuable. It doesn't decrease the value fully, but it's just collector mentality on certain things always amazes me.
There's nothing practical about it. It's never practical. It's just
No.
a thing. It's like, I want it. Let me have the thing. I have the thing. I'm going to buy the thing. Let me have the thing. It's going to be the thing.
But Jim, I mean, speaking of just terrible ideas and things that I couldn't believe this, and I think we're kind of new to it since it did come out. The article came out yesterday, but the news was really released yesterday of the NFL Blitz arcade 1-up. It's coming back, and to many people like myself, I'm like, oh, that's an awesome game.
All 3 versions.
But it's coming back with some edits to it, isn't it, Jim?
Yeah, so the NFL's kind of sort of had a little bit of a controversy with people having severe brain trauma and being invalids and killing themselves from CTE damage. Blah, 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 blah. Sued for billions upon dollars and having movies made about it. So basically, Blitz's whole thing was Blitz came from that, for anyone who doesn't know, that beautiful era from the late 90s through the early aughts where you just had these over-the-top action-y sports arcade games like Blitz, NFL Hits, MLB The Bigs. I know NBA had a version. I can't remember which. Like, Street wasn't, like, as over-the-top. That was just more, like, street-centered, but they had their own version. So, we're like, over-the-top action, the baseball game, you could put up, like, 20 home runs and hit a 800-foot home run, shit like that. Or in Blitz, how after a play would end, you could just beat the fucking piss out of someone for a good, like, 15 seconds after the fact and suplex them and leg drop them and shit until the next play happened. Goofy fun. Well, you can't do that on these versions because the NFL specifically said if you want to publish these games, you're gonna have to make some edits.
Here's
The
the
NFL
deal.
that used to sell greatest hits videos of NFL's greatest cracks and bone breaks and shit like that.
But I feel like you can still see those. Like I swear if you're going ESPN, you can still catch them and this and that. My whole thing is that everything you just said is true. The game is fun, but the over-the-top, goofy, arcade-style violence, just like you saw in NHL Hits and all the other ones, that's part of selling it. That'd be like, okay, we're going to re-release Road Rash, but you can't actually hit anyone off the bike because that's too violent. Or, it's like you take the fun factor out of the game. It just is like, with everything else that's being overtly edited, I'm like, really? Like, are they afraid someone's going to now, like, what do they think is actually going to happen?
Oh no, they're swiping any hard hits from the record. Like
That's my point. They're taking.
Well, I thought it was
all
just
out
like
of the
late
game.
hits. Like it's just late hits, like after the fact. Like you could still smash somebody to tackle them.
Some of the
stuff.
over the top hits are being taken out as well.
But
so
yeah,
it's
like-
late
Yeah,
hits
mid-play.
and just
Yeah.
mid play, like the crazy over the top, crazy camera angle would be shifting as you do it. Like they're just taking it all like to make it less violent. And I'm like, well, that's the point of the game. That's like now if WWE release wrestling games are like, we're not going to show you the pile driver. We're going to insinuate. Like you can't. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, like I agree. Like it really just takes away the spirit of what the game was and stuff. And like that's ultimately like the problem with these licenses and all this other game preservation. And like when you consider it at the same time, like it's kind of the same thing almost like with cartoons being released and editing out the cigarettes and stuff. Like is it really that thing, or is it just making you try to feel better and stuff? And I think like NFL is really in a hard spot with their violence and everything like that. Like they're like the helmet to helmet contacts and all this other stuff, they're getting sued for CTEs and all this other stuff. So like I can kind of understand it, but at the same time, it's like, do you really want the game because it's like it's a watered down now? Like, is it worth the $600? I guess for
No.
you, like if it's
Yeah.
not going to be the same.
I mean, that's the thing is like,
But you can pay $80 to have a stool.
but that's the silliness of it is if I want to replay a game that I enjoyed from my past and I'm going to put out that kind of money, I want the full version. That at a minimum, like give me whatever as close to it. It's not the full arcade cabinet, but give me the actual game. That's really silly. I'd be more okay if it was like Mortal Kombat on a Super NES, where or Mortal Kombat on like the Sega Genesis, where there's at least a code you can put in to be like the mature version. If they wanted to edit it that way, I'd be more like that's stupid, but fine. It's still there. To remove it completely, now you're like, well, that's just. Are you gonna backtrack in every Call of Duty you release? Be like, they're throwing rubber duckies at each other, not guns. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, and like that's ultimately the thing, you know, it's like why even release it at all at that point? You know, but at the same time, like that's like, I mean, the one thing that I can at least commend Arcade 1UP for doing is like making sure that people knew that it was watered down before selling it.
Yeah,
that's
definitely.
You know, like that's one of the things, that's the main thing that I really hit limited run on, was because they just, you know, like the comment that we got for the Scott Pilgrim thing, not having the full content and stuff, like people were like, well, everybody knew that it wasn't going to be on the disc. They had required all this stuff. I was like, I didn't know. Like, you know, that's
fuck you. I had to wait a year and a half for my goddamn copy of Celeste because they kept adding the DLC on there, which I appreciate, but I had 3 games with it that I lost interest in by the time it came. Word mouth. I'm the victim.
But yeah, like, I mean, like a reasonable person, like if they didn't disclose it and stuff, like if they said like it's an NFL Blitz cabinet, like it's going to pre-order and everything like that, and you remember what NFL Blitz was, you'd be forgiven if like you assumed that it was going to be on there, and like if it came back and it was like super like watered down, you'd be pretty pissed off. Like I'd be pretty pissed off if I spent $600 on it and it was not the game that I thought it was. Like I'd be really upset. So I mean, ultimately at the end of the day though, like people are going to hack it, they're going to put the original version on it. Like it's not like I think these things are fairly easy to hack, right? And so somebody's gonna put the original version on it and stuff, and they're, you know, eventually like that's what's gonna bring people to it anyway. The people who are on the fence, who are miffed about it, like as soon as somebody puts in, you know, the actual, or like I bet you anything, like I'll bet you a Coke or something like that somebody's gonna dump the code and they're going to realize that it was tweaked just a little bit and it could be restored like on the ROM. Like I cannot imagine that like enough
they probably
code.
did do it as lazily as possible.
Yeah, I can't imagine like the code is worked from the ground up. I think that they probably have like a dip switch or something like that they used to do in the thing that they could tone down the violence or something like that.
Yeah, I hope you know what, I'd be more okay if that is the case, and it is very simple for the common dum-dum like me that would be like, oh, I just need to do this one thing and get the real version. Okay, but also I feel like Arcade 1UPs, their flashpoint has already happened. Like I feel like their popularity is waning down significantly, and other than goofy collectors, which is what I feel like we've been talking about the most, the casual person, like you got some of the biggest titles out there already, and they sold decently, but they weren't like, oh my god. And Blitz is not going to be an oh my god, especially since everyone's like saying like it's a pussified version of it. So you probably just did anything. You just hurt your sales.
Here's the thing though, like Blitz is something that'll hit a way more casual market. And the people who are going to buy it, who are more casual, they're not going to know that it's watered down either.
Well, if they have no nostalgia.
No, I mean, not until they buy it and get it home and shit.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
So get those second-hand ones.
Yeah, I mean, like, and that's kind of thing. I've been interested in those arcade one-ups. I was like, I would really want that Mortal Kombat one, but I just don't have the room or anything like that. But it's like, they're pretty cool, but like, yeah, they've gotten more expensive over the time too. Like it's I don't know, like eventually, like,
Simpsons was like what, 700, 800 when it came out?
yeah,
Something
that's ridiculous, especially since it's like MDF IKEA wood, flat packed and everything. Like, you're paying more for the license than anything else. Cause like, I think at the time, like, these aren't PCBs, like they're computers that run an emulated version of it. Like you're paying for like the little aesthetic of it.
Yeah. Well, you're paying the ease. It's just like all the mini consoles. Like anyone that bought those, it was just, the ease of having these 30, 20, whatever games on it. Okay. Yes. And then the other people be like, you could just have a Pi and have every game from everything. And you could.
That's the point.
Yeah.
I looked at, because that's the thing is like, recently I've been doing the Pi stuff and Mister and all this other stuff. And like the Raspberry Pi it's garbage. Like, I don't understand like why anybody would want this over like an NES Classic. Like
the UI sucks. Like,
yeah,
my buddies have had Pis and I'm just like, man, this is terrible to navigate through.
And it's not very sharp either. It's not as sharp as it could be. But yeah, more to the point though, it's like these, like we're kind of like a weird subsect of gamers, right? We're in the minority of it. Like, I know a handful of people that never play video games before, and they have a game room and they have 4 or 5 of these little arcade one-ups because that's fun to have in their game room, because they remember Pac-Man. They don't care. Like, that's the thing is like somebody
they're not going to put the Sandwa parts in there and shit like that. Or not it.
And
they just want to have their thing to play.
Yeah, and they're going to buy NFL Blitz and they're going to play it and stuff, and they're not going to notice that the late hits or anything like that. They think it's a cool football arcade game. Like, I like football, like nachos. Yeah, I like nachos.
Yeah, someone buying it at Big Lots isn't going to be like, oh, this isn't exactly arcade accurate.
Oh, NFL, that would be great in my Chiefs room or something, like, like my NFL themed room and stuff like that. That'd be great in there.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I'll be curious. I still think it goes as the worst selling arcade one-up.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of thing. I don't know. Like, some of these arcade one-ups, like, they're like each one has like almost diminishing returns, and also on top of that, like, some of them are actually like just hard to find. Like, you can't, like, they don't go on. Sometimes they go on clearance. They used to go on clearance. They were only like, sometimes they'd be marked down to like $100 for like the Galaga one or something. Or
yeah, the Gen 1s you could get for like 50 to 75 if you were like looking at Walmart the right day.
Yeah, and nowadays, like, they only sell enough for the people to buy them, and then that's it. Yep. Like, I don't think you can really find the Simpsons one around or something, like, because Walmart,
I've
like,
never seen that in stores.
Walmart temporarily marked them down to like 300 or something like that, and then they sold out and no more.
All right, Chambers and Nick. So for our final topic, we have yet another tweet, and it does tie into the conversation of nostalgia. And Jim, I'll let you speak about it.
Yes, so good old Rich Muscucci, good old Review Tech USA. So this is a guy, if you don't know him, he's been around for fucking ever. He's been around for a good, 10, 12, 15 years on YouTube. He started off, as his name suggests, reviewing tech. And as time went on, he started to do like daily news, and then he went to the drama sphere. And he's like one of those, kind of daily, every other day uploaders at this point, does streams every day, shit like that. And he's a bit of a hothead, and he's a very opinionated guy, for better or for worse. So, I mean, personally, I kind of fell off with his content a couple years ago, but whatever.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, so he put out a tweet today, yesterday, on the 15th, saying, I love when people talk about how much quote-unquote nostalgia retro consoles like the Super NES and NES brought them, quote-unquote, growing up. And these motherfuckers weren't even born until the year 2000. You weren't even a sperm cell in your dad's sack when I was paying Gyromite. Sit down.
Here's my question. I know of Review Tech,
yeah,
but not knowing this guy, does he get drunk or smoke weed a lot?
I don't think so. He's just like he's just
like,
boisterous.
I was gonna
He's a
say,
character.
is this tweet on brand or is
Oh,
this...
extremely
Okay.
on brand.
Yeah, he's taking a play out of the top hat. And
Oh,
Lady
that's
Dick's
actually
playbook.
what I thought.
Oh yeah,
Like,
he's been a shit stirrer his entire time. Like once he started like going off, and I mean like he did the grind. He's at 1 million subs now on YouTube. Like he made it his job and all that shit. So he did eventually have a follow up tweet where he said, "By the way," so he didn't kind of backtrack maybe as Izzy Nobre. He did a good response video where he's like, "Well, he kind of moved the goalposts here." Saying, by the way, being handed an old console is not the same as growing up in the era when the console was relevant. It's not the same experience. It doesn't compare.
okay, so here's my question: do we believe he actually feels this way, or did he just try to craft a trolling kind of shit post?
Both.
It's a little bit of both, but he's sometimes dips into the rage well from time to time. Like
when he's
there's a
when
meme
he's a little
specifically.
bored or he wants a little attention, he'll do shit like this.
Yeah, there's a meme on his channel and stuff. Like anytime that he has a comment about a topic, like somebody will comment, be like, "Rich tomorrow, I was totally a 180 of what I just said. Let's get into it." So, like he like his content specifically feeds into whatever the viewer is feeling that way. So he'll kind of he'll tell you what you want to hear.
And and like you said, he'll do a response video a day or two later with the exact opposite thing to either appease and or piss off the person who watched the video beforehand. So
Yeah.
So he'll basically make one video one day, be like, "This is why, whatever, Super Mario Brothers sucks," and then a few days later, be like, "But this is why this is the best game ever."
Or he'll be like, "Oh, I was totally wrong about why Super Mario Brothers sucks. Like, here's why it's actually good."
He famously bashed the Switch, which a lot of people did before it came out, going, "This will never work. This will be a complete flop, blah, blah, blah." And then eventually made 5, "All right, I was wrong about the Switch" videos, shit like that.
Yeah. Same thing with the Amico too. Like he was like gung ho on the Amico, and then when it was unpopular,
He was a big defender
it.
of it at first, and he had he had the softball interview with Tommy Tallarico, and then
now
got
he's
in a
like,
fight
"Oh
with Pat
well, everybody
Danny
hates
Punk."
it." Yeah. As soon as Ars Technica and the E3 mode changed and stuff, and it was very apparent that it was unpopular, he just jumped on that train. So I would not take his opinion seriously.
He's got a hardcore fan base too.
I mean, that's the thing. I mean, like it took him forever to make that 1 million subs and stuff, but he's like when he started really picking up again, like he just slowly, it took him like years to go from 800,000 to 1 million.
Mm-hmm.
But more to the point though, like it's his specific tweet though, like it's clearly, he was taking a piss out of it, but like,
it was
also,
old man yells at cloud, like that a lot of people said. Like,
well, yeah, because like what he's 41, he's 2 years older than me.
Wait, he's only 41?
Yeah, he's only 41.
Ooh,
so
he looks like shit.
Oh,
That's...
not that I'm the pristine picture of health or anything like that, but damn.
But
Jesus.
I mean, so like that's all the way that he perceived it was like, you can't say that you're nostalgic for the NES if you were born after 2000. And it's like, no, you can be nostalgic for anything that you grew up with. Like I listened to 1950s songs and Motown and stuff, well before my time. I love those songs. I'll go back and listen to them still today, and it brings me back to like a comfort of like riding in the car with my mom, who's no longer with us. But also it's like, did we not grow up with the Jetsons and Flintstones and Adam West Batman? All stuff that came before us.
Dude, all Cartoon Network had for years was Tex Avery reruns and shit like that before they had their own
Looney
shows.
Tunes and stuff. Like we love Bugs Bunny, and Bugs Bunny's been around since the 30s. Like that's kind of the thing, is like to his point that he was trying to make was, yes, you cannot go back to a time where the NES was the top of the line, state of the art product. you'll never be able to go back to that.
Can't
You
experience it. Yeah.
yeah, you can go try to make like a pioneer town where it's an 80s room that's exactly the right thing, but it'll always be something that's like a caricature. It's like all the best from that era to do it. It's not exactly like that time and stuff. Like you cannot go and dial it in to like this is what a room was like in 1988 and only anything from 1988. You
Yeah.
can't do it. It's like when you go to Pioneer Town, you know, you see somebody churn butter or something like that. You're like, oh, that's neat. And then you like look at your cell phone, you take a picture of it, you know, like
Yeah, exactly. You can't there. If I was playing devil's advocate for him, I would say instead of saying you can't have nostalgia, like you can't understand the experience. That's like anyone, as we've talked about being game reviewers, and we try our best to be unbiased and looking back at old games. But I'm sorry, anyone today, even us, looking back on Atari games, even if you played it as a kid, you can't appreciate the very first generation that was the first thing they saw. To them, that was groundbreaking. And, you know, for us here, probably the first real system of our generation was NES. So, yeah, you can't have that same experience. But, yeah, of course you can be nostalgic for whatever you had when you were a kid. But, yeah, the experience, living through it, it's like nowadays on Netflix when they have that The Last Dance with Michael Jordan. Like growing up in the 90s, we know how big Michael Jordan was. Kids after that, they know his name and they can watch a documentary and be like, yeah, he was pretty good. Like you can't appreciate just how big he actually was in the 90s unless you lived through that.
yeah, and like living in Chicago at that time, like
Exactly,
I was like pumped when I saw that. I was like, oh man, I remember like being so excited, like the electricity that was in there. Like you can't recreate that. Like, and that's the kind of thing too, is like even to like that point about like Atari and stuff, like my dad had an Intellivision and I still have it. But even then as a kid, like you couldn't, like when you had the NES right next to the Intellivision, there's nothing you can't compare. Like you'd be like, okay, that is cool. Back to my NES or something like that. You can't, and like even now today, like you can't force your kid to play NES when there's a PlayStation 5 out there. You know, like you can't send your kid to school. Like I'm pretty sure you'd be like, you know, taken away because like of child abuse because you don't let your kid play what all the other kids are playing on the playground, you know, like there's a social aspect to it too. Like there's, you know, back in the day, like it's like, oh, did you get an NES for Christmas and stuff? It's like, yeah, I got a Sega Genesis or something like that. Whoa, like, you know, like I got a Super Nintendo, you know, like you can't recreate that. So like, yeah, to that point, I understand, but like you could still have nostalgia for stuff that you grew up with as a kid, you know, like maybe you shared that experience with your dad who like brought out his old NES or something like that to play with the kids and stuff. You remember, you know, playing with your dad or something like that, you know, like that's a memory that will never go away and you can't take that away from him. But yeah, like specifically in that time frame, like I have an Apple IIe like that I bought and that brings me back from when I had one in kindergarten, you know, because like that's, you know, dating myself, like how old I was, like that's what we had, like, and that computer specifically is from before my time. Like it's, I think this one's made in 1983 or something like that. That's when I was born, but I didn't get to experience it until like 1988, 1989. But I still remember playing Oregon Trail and Rita Rabbit and all these other games on it. So when I go back to get an Apple IIe and you hear the beep and like the grinding of the floppy disk drives and stuff, you know, like all that like unlocks the memories that you had as a kid. And like that's what nostalgia is. Like nostalgia, like the piece of hardware and stuff. I don't have the exact Apple IIe that I grew up with. You know, I don't have the same exact Super Nintendo or anything like that. Like I still have my original Nintendo 64, GameCube, and Game Gear and Sega CD and stuff, but that's not what I'm nostalgic for. I'm nostalgic for the time and the memories that I built when I had those things, you know?
Yeah, same here. Like I have a nostalgia for the Atari because when my parents saw that I liked playing my brother's Genesis, they brought the Atari down from the fucking attic. So in 1993, I'm playing Frogs and Flies with my dad from 1970. So it's the same exact kind of deal. Like I think we all kind of get what Rich was going at, but Rich had to do it in his typical Rich way, as inflammatory as possible. So
yeah, I mean, like he'll enjoy his impressions and stuff like that he gets, and like the new people that come to his channel that look at it and be like, oh well, I kind of agree with them and stuff. Like that's unfortunately, like that's how you have to play things. Controversy sells. So you have to like constantly generate the and like with retro games, it's like shooting fish in a barrel, because like I did it one time. Like I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna because like you see all these like people on Twitter being like, oh, was Link to the Past actually really good? Like when they make controversy about like what's better, like Ocarina of Time or Twilight Princess or Wind Waker, like all the other controversy things, like like at the end of the day, who cares? But like I posted a thing, I like held up a copy of Earthbound, and I was like, I found this at $1 for $1 at a garage sale. Is it any good? Like I've never heard of this game. And people are like, oh my god, it's the greatest. And like some people were like, you found that at $1 at a garage sale? And it was a Tuesday also. They're like, and it's a Tuesday. I was like, hey, listen, like in Chicago, like we have these things called garage sale Tuesdays, and like that's how we find it. Like it's clear that I was trolling, but like that's what garners, like those pick one, 4 screenshots, or one has to go or something like that.
Yeah.
Like unfortunately, that's the kind of engagement that drives people to your Twitter, and you need to do that if you actually want to grow your following.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's shit posting, it's trolling, whatever you want to call it. The lack of sincerity in most people is just driven because they know they can get just as many views. And guess what? Even if you hate these people, giving them the views and the interactions helps them. So he knows what he's doing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like he was like, you know what? I'm just gonna piss off the retro gamers today and get all their fucking attention.
And he just shuts off notifications for his thing, and he just does whatever the hell he does, for the rest of the day. It's like
exactly.
like
and
who
it's
cares?
Easy to just hit mute conversation and just sit back. That's all you gotta do.
Yeah, out of sight, out of mind. Like, yeah, he doesn't care. But like that, I was gonna like consider making a video, but I was like, you know what? That's what he wants. Like, I don't.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, it's like,
I
is
have
it
to
really
see this and comment and interact and blah blah blah.
Yeah. I was like, and that's the thing too. Is like I rarely interact with him in the first place. Like I used to watch him for a little bit, but it's like it's so infuriating sometimes to watch him.
Which is funny because he just had one of it. He just had his like bi-yearly, like I'm done doing videos on YouTube. Guaranteed, if this takes off enough, he'll make a fucking video on it.
That's the everybody quits YouTube every 6 months.
YouTube, they're quitting Twitter. Like, shut up. Just, you're not quitting shit.
Yeah, so many people are like, "Oh, this is so clickbait." I was like, "Man, you should watch Scotty Kilmer on YouTube. Like that guy's the king of clickbait. Like he did one where he constantly like takes the whatever search trends and stuff like that, and like he plays into it. He's like, I'm so upset at this right now, or he'll put a thumbnail that says bye, like he's quitting or something like that. And then the one time he put like he's like Scotty Kilmer RIP and stuff like that, and you're like, holy shit, he died. And he's like no, I didn't die, like some people were asking me, blah blah, like his total clickbait. I was like,
some people are shameless. I actually kind of respect it when you're like so ridiculously over the top shamelessly clickbait that it's just like, I can't be this mad at it. Like, fuck.
I fell for it. I was like, so I mean, like it works, that's kind of like annoying about people
like
when
to be
they complain about
it's
clickbait.
Like, I kind of respect it.
He's got like over 3 million subscribers and stuff like that. Like he's just like he's just a mechanic who talks about cars and stuff, and like he constantly talks about like how Tesla's gonna like go under any day now and stuff. Every video is like, nobody's telling you the truth about Tesla, so I guess I'll have to do it. Like, like I'm like, man, you've done this video like 4 times in a row. Like, what the hell?
Yeah, because the Elon stands are fish in a barrel too. So
yeah, I mean, yeah, and so like he doesn't care, but like that's how you get ahead in YouTube. Like that's what you do. Like you make a controversial video, and you get people going and stuff. Like that limited run video, man, it pissed people off because didn't even watch it. Like they all discussed it on their limited run Discord and stuff, and I got literally like every day was a 5 or 6 different comments, but it was all the same topic, all the same talking points and stuff. I was like, okay, like this is odd. Like, so, man, you're talking about the exact same thing in the same function and stuff like that. So like, what's going on here?
You see, they're actually doing a service, blah 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 blah. It's like, okay,
you can't blame you can't blame limited run. You have to blame Ubisoft and Bethesda. I was like, well, limited run's putting their name on this thing, and they're like, how dare you?
Exactly.
You're just an adult with toys behind you. I was like, okay, well, you're standing for a video game company, so let's sit down, please.
Probably also an adult with toys behind you. So,
Nick, speaking of videos, once again, we want to truly thank you for coming on with us. And shout out once again, where can everyone find you? Where do you want them to subscribe and hit you up?
Well, you can find me on YouTube. It's Super Nicktendo. It's youtube.com/Super Nicktendo. And then I'm going to make sure that it is right because it's been a while since I believe it is Super Nicktendo.
we're going to have the links below for all
Absolutely.
the descriptions too. So
yeah, but it is, it's youtube.com/Super Nicktendo. And then, and yeah, you can follow me on Twitter for my regular shit posts and stuff and hot takes. It's Nicktendo, and you can follow me on Instagram too. I don't really go on Instagram too much because Meta, they suppress my posts because I don't pay them to promote it. So,
Nick, I just want to see a crying video of you holding your misters and all that and all your stuff and just crying in front of the camera.
I thought that I would like make like a video about like how I thought about like some clickbait or something like that.
Oh,
like,
dude, one more Atari VCS video with you crying, going, "I was robbed." Let's put it up there.
Oh god, I couldn't
or
do that.
Why
'cause that's,
this
like,
is the
tempting
most
fate.
underrated video game console of all time.
Let the hate flow.
I did the one where like it was on sale at GameStop for $100, so I bought an extra one. And I was like, did GameStop kill the Atari VCS?
But no, we really appreciate you coming on, bud. Thank you, and to everyone who's watching, please make sure hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Hit the notification so you can get notified when we release new videos. If you're listening to us on iTunes or Spotify, hit subscribe. If you leave us a 5-star rating, even if you want to bash us, we will read the reviews on this podcast. With that, we want to say have a good night, everyone, and cheers, guys.
Cheers, all.